You won't want to miss this. Before we jump in, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. The rhythmic whirring of servos and the soft hum of glowing consoles filled the subterranean lab beneath Demo Station, a crumbling mining colony orbiting the gas giant Noro. The stale, metallic air carried the faint tang of grease and ionized energy, a constant reminder of the fragile systems holding the station together. For Elian Voss, this decaying station was not a place to live but a prison sentence for a crime he had not intended to commit. He sat hunched over a flickering holographic display, his face lit by the neon green glow of code cascading down the screen. His hands moved with practiced precision, recalibrating the oscillation fields of the station's unstable wormhole stabilizer. The device, cobbled together from scavenged components and haphazard repairs, groaned as if alive. Almost there, Elian muttered under his breath, tightening a series of clamps around the stabilizer's main core. His voice sounded hollow in the cavernous room, drowned by the ambient noise of the machinery. The stabilizer wasn't just another project. It was the project. A chance for redemption. Years ago, Elian had been one of the youngest lead physicists at the prestigious Halios Prime Institute of Quantum Mechanics. Ambitious and innovative, he had pioneered a new method of dimensional tunneling that promised instantaneous travel between star systems. But his ambition turned disastrous during a demonstration when an unstable test tunnel collapsed, consuming half a city block and leaving hundreds dead or displaced. The accident branded him a pariah. Cast out from society, Elian was exiled to Demo Station, far from Halios Prime's glittering skyline. The stabilizer project had been his ticket back to credibility, or so he thought. Now, it was just another grueling task in a long string of assignments he had grown to despise. Elian. Status report. The grating voice of Keres Thane, the station's director, blared through his comlink. Elian groaned and pressed a button to mute the incoming call. Not now, Keres, he muttered to himself. The last thing he needed was more pressure from his perpetually irate superior. As he worked, a low rumble shook the lab, dislodging a cascade of dust from the ceiling. The station's aging structure groaned under the strain, a sound Elian had grown disturbingly accustomed to. What a junk heap, he said to no one in particular. Just as he adjusted the stabilizer's main energy array, his wristband buzzed with an alert. A faint, intermittent signal was being detected from the asteroid field beyond the station. Frowning, Elian turned to a nearby console and began to analyze the data. Not another malfunction, he muttered, pulling up the signal's frequency. But as the data materialized, his irritation turned to intrigue. The signal was old, ancient, even. Its structure was unlike anything he'd ever seen, encoded in patterns that defied conventional linguistic systems. Stranger still, it wasn't random. It repeated at precise intervals, as though it were trying to communicate. His curiosity piqued, Elian fed the signal into the stabilizer's analysis core. As the machine processed the data, it began emitting a soft golden glow. The air around him grew warmer, charged with static electricity, and the hum of the stabilizer deepened into a resonant pulse. This isn't normal, Elian said, his voice tinged with unease. He reached for the emergency shutdown switch, but before he could press it, the stabilizer emitted a sudden burst of energy. The lab was bathed in brilliant golden light as a vortex began to form above the stabilizer's core. Elian stumbled back, shielding his eyes. The vortex twisted and writhed, a swirling mass of light and shadow that seemed to defy the laws of physics. He felt a pressure in the air, like the weight of an impending storm. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the vortex stabilized into a small, glowing rift. From its depths stepped a figure, a being unlike anything Elian had ever seen. The figure was tall and slender, their body composed of a fluid, metallic substance that shimmered like liquid mercury. Their eyes, crystalline and glowing with an internal light, fixed on Elian with an intensity that made his pulse race. The air around them shimmered with an iridescent haze, as though reality itself bent in their presence. For a moment, neither moved. Elian stood frozen, his mind racing to process what he was seeing. The figure finally spoke, their voice resonating like a symphony of chimes and echoes. "I am Eris Alpha, Sentinel of the Nexus," they said, their tone calm yet commanding. "Your interference has awakened the gate." Elian blinked, struggling to find his voice. What are you talking about? What gate?" Eris tilted their head, their glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "The dimensional gate buried within this sector. It has been dormant for eons, but your actions have reactivated it." "I didn't do anything," Elian protested, gesturing at the stabilizer. "I was just trying to fix this stupid machine." Eris took a step closer, their presence radiating an unsettling energy. "Your machine resonates with the gate's energy signature. Whether by intention or accident, you have triggered a cascade event that cannot be undone." Elian's frustration flared. "Look, I don't know who, or what, you are, but I've got enough problems without adding Dimensional Gatekeeper to the list." Eris's expression remained unreadable, but their tone softened. "I understand your confusion, Elian Voss. This is not a role you sought, but it is one you must now embrace. The Nexus has chosen you." "The Nexus?" Elian repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. "What the hell is the Nexus?" "It is the boundary between realities," Eris explained. "A network of dimensional rifts connecting infinite worlds. The gate is part of this network, a portal to possibilities beyond your understanding. But it is also a source of great danger if left unchecked." Elian stared at them, his mind reeling. He had spent his entire career studying dimensional theory, but the Nexus was beyond anything he had ever conceived. And now, somehow, he was at the center of it. "Why me?" he asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Eris regarded him with an inscrutable expression. "The gate resonates with your energy. It responds to the scars you carry, the echoes of your past. That is why it has awakened." Elian's chest tightened. He didn't need a cryptic alien to remind him of his failures. The memory of the accident on Halios Prime was never far from his thoughts. Before he could respond, the lab's alarm system blared to life. A proximity alert flashed across the console, indicating the arrival of an unidentified ship. Elian turned to the monitor and saw a sleek, black vessel approaching the station. "That's not a mining ship," he muttered. Eris stepped beside him, their crystalline eyes narrowing as they studied the monitor. "The Dominion," they said, their tone laced with urgency. "They have detected the gate's activation." "The Dominion? You mean the collective Dominion?" Elian asked, his heart sinking. The Dominion was a ruthless interstellar regime known for its relentless pursuit of advanced technology. Eris nodded. "They seek to control the Nexus for their own purposes. If they gain access to the gate, they will unleash chaos upon countless worlds." Panic set in as the gravity of the situation sank in. Elian's life had already been derailed once by his experiments. Now it seemed fate had conspired to place him at the center of an even greater disaster. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice trembling. Eris placed a hand on his shoulder, their touch surprisingly warm. "We must protect the gate. But first, we must escape this station. The Dominion will not stop until they have what they seek." Elian stared at the stabilizer, its glow dimming but still pulsing with residual energy. The gate had awakened, and with it, a cascade of events he could neither predict nor control. For better or worse, his life was no longer his own. The days following the gate's activation passed in a whirlwind of revelations, tension, and a gnawing sense of impending doom. Elian Voss found himself grappling with questions he had no answers for, standing on the precipice of understanding a reality that defied everything he once thought he knew. Eris Alpha, the mysterious sentinel of the Nexus, had made it clear. The stabilizer he had been working on wasn't just a broken piece of technology, it was a key. By some cosmic twist of fate, it resonated with the dimensional rift buried in the asteroid field surrounding Demo Station. The gate, a remnant of the ancient Erethan civilization, was one of many connected through the Nexus, a vast network linking infinite dimensions. Elian paced in the cramped confines of his quarters, the walls closing in on him like the weight of his thoughts. "So, let me get this straight," he said, gesturing wildly as Eris stood calmly in the corner, their metallic form glowing faintly in the dim light. This gate, this dimensional rift thing, it's been out here for millennia, just waiting for someone to wake it up. Not waiting, Eris corrected, their voice resonant yet oddly soothing. It is a relic of the Aerithans, an ancient civilization that once traversed the multiverse freely. They created the gates to explore, to learn. But they underestimated the dangers of such power. Many gates were sealed, their knowledge scattered, and their civilization extinguished. Extinguished, Elian repeated, his stomach sinking. And now it's my problem? Because I fixed a machine. You didn't merely fix a machine, Eris said, stepping closer. Their crystalline eyes glimmered with what Elian could only interpret as intensity. Your technology resonates with the gate's energy signature. That is why it responded to you. Elian threw up his hands. What does that even mean? Resonates? Is it like a fingerprint? A DNA match? Or am I just the universe's favorite punching bag? Eris tilted their head, considering his words. Resonance is difficult to explain in human terms. It is not merely physical or biological. It is energetic, tied to your thoughts, your experiences, your essence. My essence. Elian scoffed, his frustration bubbling over. So, what? I have the right kind of trauma for the gate to pick me as its chosen one. Eris's expression didn't change, but their tone softened. Your past has left marks on you. Yes. Marks that align with the patterns of the Nexus. That is why the gate responds to you. It is not about worthiness, Elian. It is about connection. Elian fell silent, the weight of their words pressing down on him like a physical force. He had spent years trying to escape his past, to bury the memories of the accident on Halios Prime that had cost so many lives. Now, it seemed, that same past had come back to haunt him in a way he could never have anticipated. But there was no time to dwell on his guilt. The activation of the gate hadn't gone unnoticed. The collective Dominion, an authoritarian interstellar regime, had detected the energy fluctuations. Within hours, Dominion ships began appearing in the asteroid field, their sleek, black hulls gleaming ominously against the backdrop of Noros' swirling gas clouds. The Dominion was infamous for its relentless pursuit of advanced technologies, especially those with military potential. And a functioning dimensional gate was the ultimate prize. Why are they here so quickly? Elian asked as he and Eris watched the Dominion ships on a holographic display in the station's control room. Eris's expression darkened. The Dominion has been searching for nexus points for decades. They have long suspected this sector harbored a gate. The activation confirmed their suspicions. And they'll do anything to get it, Elian muttered. Eris nodded. The Nexus is not just a network of rifts. It is a source of immense energy, capable of reshaping realities. In the hands of the Dominion, it would become a weapon of unimaginable destruction. The situation grew more dire as the Dominion tightened its grip on the area. Their operatives, led by the ruthless Commander Kale Oren, infiltrated Demo's station, taking control of key systems and cutting off external communications. The station's workers, unprepared for such an invasion, surrendered without resistance. Elian and Eris had no choice but to retreat into the station's labyrinthine maintenance tunnels. Crawling through the narrow, dimly lit corridors, Elian tried to suppress the rising panic in his chest. This is insane, he whispered, his voice echoing softly. We're trapped on a dying station with an alien gate and a military force that wants to turn it into a doomsday device. How is this my life now? Eris, crawling ahead of him, glanced back. Your life is no longer confined to this station, Elian Voss. It is tied to the Nexus, and to the infinite possibilities it represents. Elian let out a bitter laugh. Infinite possibilities? Sounds more like infinite ways to die. Eris didn't respond. Instead, they paused, their shimmering form rippling as though detecting something unseen. What is it? Elian asked, his voice tinged with alarm. We are not alone, Eris said, their tone hushed but tense. Elian's heart skipped a beat. The Dominion. No, Eris's eyes glowed brighter, their body shifting into a defensive posture. Something else. Something drawn to the gate's energy. The air grew heavy, charged with an almost oppressive tension. From the shadows ahead emerged a figure, a biomechanical predator known as an Arcthian stalker. Its skeletal frame gleamed with metallic plating, its multi-limbed body moving with a disturbing, insect-like precision. Its glowing red eyes fixed on Elian and Eris, and a low, mechanical growl reverberated through the tunnel. "What the hell is that?" Elian hissed, scrambling backward. "An Arcthian stalker," Eris said, their tone grim. "A hunter deployed by the Dominion. It is designed to track and neutralize fugitives." "Neutralize? You mean kill?" "Among other things," Eris replied, stepping forward. "Stay behind me." The stalker lunged, its claws whirring with lethal energy. Eris moved with inhuman speed, weaving through the attack with a fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed. Their metallic form glowed brighter, emitting bursts of radiant energy that momentarily staggered the predator. Elian watched in awe and terror as the two clashed, their movements a blur of light and shadow. But it quickly became apparent that the stalker was adapting, its attacks growing more precise with each passing moment. "We can't keep this up," Elian shouted. Eris glanced back at him, their expression unreadable. "Your stabilizer, it can disrupt its neural core. Use it." Elian hesitated, glancing at the portable stabilizer strapped to his side. It was unstable, prone to unpredictable surges. But it was their only chance. Fumbling with the device, he recalibrated its energy output, his hands shaking as the stalker lunged toward him. At the last second, Eris intercepted the attack, their body glowing with a burst of energy that sent the predator reeling. "Hurry, Elian!" Eris called out, their voice strained. With a final adjustment, Elian activated the stabilizer, directing a focused energy pulse at the stalker. The device whined ominously before releasing a surge of golden light that struck the predator's core. The stalker spasmed violently, its limbs flailing as it emitted a distorted screech. Then, with a final jolt, it collapsed in a heap of twisted metal. Eris approached the remains cautiously, their crystalline eyes scanning for any signs of movement. Satisfied that the threat was neutralized, they turned to Elian, their expressions softening. "You acted without fear," they said. "The gate responds to such resolve." Elian collapsed against the wall, panting. "Yeah, well, remind me not to make that a habit." Eris's lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps it will not be necessary." But as they retreated deeper into the tunnels, Elian couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The gate had been awakened, the Dominion was closing in, and his connection to the Nexus was still a mystery he had yet to unravel. The Dominion tightened its grip on Demo Station. Armed patrols swept through the station's corridors, their boots pounding against the metallic floors as they systematically secured vital systems. Civilians, mostly engineers and miners, were herded into makeshift holding areas, their faces pale with fear. Overhead, surveillance drones buzzed incessantly, scanning for any signs of resistance. From their hiding place deep within the station's maintenance tunnels, Elian Voss and Eris Alpha listened to the distant echoes of Dominion forces moving closer. The Dominion wasn't here to negotiate. They were here to take the gate, no matter the cost. Elian crouched in the dim, narrow space, his heart racing as he tried to suppress the panic rising within him. His breath came in shallow gasps, the weight of their precarious situation pressing down on him. "How long before they find us?" Elian whispered, glancing nervously at Eris. The sentinel remained calm, their shimmering form barely visible in the low light. "They are methodical," Eris said, their voice steady. "It is only a matter of time. We must stay ahead of them." Elian shook his head. "This is insane. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and—" He froze as a sudden noise echoed through the tunnel. The unmistakable whir of a Dominion surveillance drone grew louder, its searchlight sweeping through the darkness. "Move," Eris commanded, their tone urgent but controlled. Elian scrambled to his feet and followed Eris deeper into the maze of tunnels. The confined space was suffocating, the air thick with the scent of oil and rust. Pipes lined the walls, hissing and groaning as the station's aging systems struggled to maintain pressure. As they rounded a corner, the drone's searchlight swept past, narrowly missing them. Elian pressed himself against the wall, his pulse pounding in his ears. That was too close, he muttered. Eris turned to him, their crystalline eyes glowing faintly. Focus, Elian. Fear will only slow you down. Easy for you to say, Elian shot back. You're a freaking glowing alien. I'm just a guy with a knack for breaking things. You are more than that, Eris said, their tone firm. The gate chose you for a reason. It sees potential in you, even if you do not see it in yourself. Elian didn't respond. He didn't have the energy to argue, and deep down, he knew Eris was right. Still, it was hard to feel like the chosen one when he was running for his life in the bowels of a crumbling space station. They emerged into a larger chamber, a maintenance bay filled with outdated machinery and discarded equipment. Elian paused to catch his breath, his hands resting on his knees as he tried to steady himself. Do you have a plan? He asked, looking up at Eris. The sentinels studied the room, their metallic form shimmering as they moved. We need to reach the gate. It is the only way to stop the Dominion. Elian frowned. And how do we do that with an entire battalion standing between us and the gate? Eris approached a nearby console, their fingers brushing over its surface. The console flickered to life, displaying a schematic of the station. The gate is buried within the asteroid field. To access it, we must disable the Dominion's blockade and secure a transport vessel. Elian stared at the schematic, his mind racing. Disable a blockade? Sure, no problem. Let me just whip up a miracle while we're at it. Eris ignored his sarcasm. The station's power grid is centralized in the upper levels. If we can disrupt the grid, it will temporarily disable the Dominion systems, including their blockade. And how do we get up there without getting caught? Eris's crystalline eyes met his. We will need to be creative. Their journey to the upper levels was a harrowing one. Dominion patrols were everywhere, their presence a constant reminder of the danger they faced. Elian and Eris moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows and avoiding open areas whenever possible. At one point, they were forced to hide in a storage room as a squad of Dominion soldiers passed by. Elian pressed his back against a stack of crates, holding his breath as the soldiers' voices echoed through the corridor outside. Sector 3 is clear, one of them said. Keep moving, another replied. Commander Oren wants this station secured by the end of the cycle. Elian glanced at Eris, who stood motionless, their glowing form dimmed to avoid detection. He marveled at their composure, wondering how they managed to stay so calm in the face of such overwhelming odds. Once the soldiers moved on, Eris gestured for Elian to follow. They slipped out of the storage room and continued their ascent, the tension between them unspoken but palpable. They reached the upper levels after what felt like an eternity. The power grid control room was heavily guarded, with Dominion soldiers stationed at every entrance. Elian and Eris observed the scene from a hidden vantage point, formulating a plan. We can't take them head-on, Elian whispered. There are too many of them. Eris nodded. Agreed. But we do not need to fight them. We only need to create a distraction. Elian raised an eyebrow. What kind of distraction? Eris didn't answer immediately. Instead, they pointed to a series of exposed pipes running along the wall. Those pipes carry pressurized gas. If we rupture them, it will create enough chaos to draw the guards away from the control room. Elian studied the pipes, his mind racing. And how do we do that without blowing ourselves up in the process? Eris turned to him, their expression calm but resolute. Trust me. Elian sighed. That's not exactly reassuring. The plan went into motion with startling efficiency. Eris used their energy manipulation abilities to weaken the structural integrity of the pipes, causing a controlled rupture. The resulting explosion sent a plume of fire and smoke into the air, triggering alarms throughout the station. As predicted, the guards abandoned their posts to investigate the explosion, leaving the control room unguarded. Let's move, Eris said, leading the way. Elian followed, his heart pounding as they entered the control room. The room was a labyrinth of consoles and monitors, each one displaying data on the station's systems. Eris approached the central console and began working quickly, their metallic fingers moving with precision. I will disable the power grid. It will not stop the Dominion, but it will buy us time. Elian watched nervously as the lights flickered and dimmed, the station's systems faltering under Eris's manipulation. Let's hope this works, he muttered. Their victory was short-lived. As they prepared to leave the control room, the door burst open, and a squad of Dominion soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. Don't move, one of them barked. Elian froze, his mind racing as he tried to think of a way out. Eris stepped forward, their glowing form radiating defiance. You cannot stop us, they said, their voice resonating with power. The soldiers hesitated, clearly unnerved by Eris's presence. But before they could react, Eris unleashed a burst of energy that sent them flying backward. Run! Eris shouted. Elian didn't need to be told twice. He bolted from the room, Eris close behind him. The Dominion soldiers regrouped quickly, their shouts echoing through the corridors as they gave chase. Elian's lungs burned as he ran, his legs threatening to give out with every step. He could hear the soldiers closing in, their boots pounding against the floor. Keep moving, Eris urged, their voice steady despite the chaos. Elian pushed himself harder, refusing to give in to exhaustion. They were so close to reaching the gate, so close to ending this nightmare. But deep down, he knew the worst was yet to come. The asteroid field loomed before them, a jagged expanse of ancient rock illuminated by the cold light of the nearby gas giant, Noro. Among the floating debris, the Dominion's blockade glinted menacingly, sleek black warships with weapons trained on every conceivable approach. The flagship, Command Vessel Vortex, hung at the center like a predatory spider waiting in its web. From their stolen maintenance shuttle, Elian Voss and Eris Alpha observed the grim scene in tense silence. The shuttle's cloaking field flickered intermittently, straining against the Dominion's powerful scanners. We can't sneak past that, Elian muttered, his voice heavy with despair. His fingers gripped the shuttle's controls, his knuckles white. They'll detect us the moment we move. Eris, seated beside him, studied the blockade with calm determination. The gate is buried within the asteroid field, beneath the surface of the largest fragment. That is our destination. If we can reach it, I can sever its connection to this dimension before the Dominion takes control. Elian shook his head. And how do we get through an armada without getting vaporized? Hope and good intentions. Eris turned to him, their crystalline eyes glowing faintly. There is another way. A dangerous one. Elian groaned. Why does it always have to be dangerous? Eris ignored his complaint and gestured toward a cluster of asteroids near the blockade's edge. The debris field surrounding the gate is highly unstable. Dominion ships cannot navigate it without risking damage. But this shuttle is small enough to slip through. Elian raised an eyebrow. So, you're saying our best bet is to play chicken with a field of exploding space rocks? Eris's expression remained steady. If we hesitate, the Dominion will reach the gate first. The choice is yours, Elian. Elian let out a long sigh, his hands tightening on the controls. Fine. But if we die, I'm haunting you. The shuttle darted into the asteroid field, its engines humming with barely restrained power. Elian's eyes darted between the viewport and the control panel, his hands moving with frantic precision as he guided the craft through the labyrinth of tumbling rocks. Chunks of stone the size of skyscrapers spun past, their surfaces pockmarked with craters and glinting with veins of alien minerals. Occasionally, a sudden collision sent smaller fragments hurtling toward the shuttle, forcing Elian to swerve and dive with hair-raising speed. Keep to the left, Eris instructed, their voice calm despite the chaos. The gravitational anomalies in this sector are less severe. Less severe? Great, that's so comforting, Elian snapped, narrowly avoiding a jagged shard of rock that scraped the shuttle's hull. A sudden alert blared from the control panel. Dominion fighters had detected their trajectory and were moving to intercept. They are on us, Elian shouted. Eris leaned forward, their glowing form shimmering with intensity. Focus on the gate. I will handle the fighters. Before Elian could respond, Eris extended a hand toward the viewport. A surge of radiant energy erupted from their body, cascading outward in a wave that distorted the space around them. The pursuing fighters faltered, their systems disrupted by the interference. How are you doing that? Elian asked, his voice tinged with awe. The Nexus flows through me, Eris replied, their tone distant. I am merely a conduit. As they approached the largest asteroid, the one housing the gate, Eris's demeanor grew more solemn. The gate's energy pulsed faintly in the distance, a golden glow visible even through the thick layers of rock. We're almost there, Elian said, his voice tight with concentration. Eris placed a hand on his shoulder, their touch warm and steady. When we reach the gate, you must make a choice. The Nexus responds to you, Elian. Only you can decide its fate. Elian frowned, his mind racing. What do you mean, decide its fate? I thought we were just shutting it down. Eris's crystalline eyes met his. The gate can be severed, yes, but it can also be stabilized. To do so would require you to bond with it completely, to become its guardian. It would be a burden, and a responsibility. Elian's stomach churned. And if I don't? If we just sever it? Eris hesitated. If the gate is severed, its energy will collapse violently, potentially destabilizing this entire region of space. The Dominion will be repelled, but the consequences could be catastrophic. Elian stared at them, his throat dry. So, my options are to risk blowing up half the sector or sign up for a lifetime of gate babysitting. Fantastic. The shuttle landed on the asteroid's surface, its thrusters kicking up clouds of dust. Elian and Eris disembarked, the thin atmosphere forcing Elian to wear a breathing mask while Eris moved unimpeded. The entrance to the gate's chamber was marked by massive stone pillars, their surfaces etched with ancient Erithan symbols. The air shimmered with energy, and Elian felt a strange pull in his chest, as if the gate was calling to him. Through here, Eris said, leading the way. Inside, the chamber was vast and otherworldly. The gate itself stood at the center, a massive circular structure composed of interlocking rings that rotated slowly, suspended in midair. Golden light pulsed from its core, illuminating the intricate carvings on the walls. Elian approached the gate cautiously, his every step accompanied by a rising hum of energy. This is it, he murmured. Eris nodded. The gate is connected to the Nexus. It bridges this dimension to countless others. If the Dominion gains control, they will weaponize it, spreading destruction across the multiverse. Before Elian could respond, a sharp voice echoed through the chamber. Step away from the gate. Elian and Eris turned to see Commander Kale Oren entering the chamber, flanked by Dominion soldiers. Oren's dark armor glinted in the golden light, his sharp features twisted into a predatory grin. You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Oren said, leveling his weapon at them. But it ends here. Surrender the gate, and I might let you live. Eris stepped forward, their glowing form radiating defiance. The gate will not serve your greed, Oren. Leave now, or face the consequences. Oren laughed coldly. Brave words, alien. But you're outnumbered, and your human friend there looks like he's ready to collapse. Elian's mind raced. The gate pulsed behind him, its energy intensifying as if in response to his presence. He felt its pull growing stronger, a silent invitation he couldn't ignore. Eris, he said quietly, can you hold them off? Eris glanced at him, their expression unreadable. For a time, but not forever. Elian nodded, his decision made. Then do it. As Eris unleashed a wave of energy, forcing the Dominion soldiers to scatter, Elian turned toward the gate. He stepped closer, his heart pounding as the golden light enveloped him. The moment he touched the gate, his mind was flooded with visions. He saw infinite worlds, some vibrant and thriving, others desolate and broken. He felt the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance that the Nexus represented. A voice echoed in his mind, deep and resonant. Elian Voss. Will you carry this burden? Will you protect the Nexus? Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, Yes. The gate's energy surged, flooding his body with power. He felt his consciousness expand, his senses stretching beyond the confines of his physical form. The Dominion soldiers fell back, their weapons useless against the overwhelming force radiating from the gate. When the light faded, Elian stood transformed. His eyes glowed with golden light, his body surrounded by a faint, shimmering aura. Oren stared at him in disbelief. What have you done? I've made a choice, Elian said, his voice steady and powerful. The gate is under my protection now. Leave, or be destroyed. Oren hesitated, but the sheer force of Elian's presence left him no choice. He retreated, his soldiers following close behind. As the Dominion ships withdrew, the chamber grew quiet. Eris approached Elian, their expression unreadable. You have embraced the Nexus, they said. You are its guardian now. Elian nodded, a sense of peace washing over him. I didn't want this, but maybe it's what I needed. Eris placed a hand on his shoulder. Your journey is only beginning, Elian Voss. The Nexus will guide you, and I will stand by your side, if you wish it. Elian smiled faintly. I think I could use the company. Together, they stood before the gate, its golden light a beacon of hope and possibility. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Elian felt ready to face it.